truly matters, our families. Healthy families make healthy societies. I'm Randy.
And I'm Leslie. We're diving deep into the powerful insights of Dr. Randy's groundbreaking book, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out.
Hear inspiring stories and strategies to transform your family. We'll explore topics like communication, forgiveness, healing, parenting, marriage. We'll cover it all.
We'll have provoking conversations with experts, coaches, and real-life families who are benefiting from intentional family building.
This podcast isn't just about theories, it's about tools that you can implement today.
We all come from families, so this podcast is for you.
Join us on this incredible family journey. Subscribe now as we learn to do family as God designed.
Transforming families one episode at a time. Remember, whoever wins the family wins the culture in the end. Let's go.
Welcome back to Transforming Families with Randy and Leslie. I'm Randy.
I'm Leslie. Randy's going to give a formal introduction of our guest today, but I just wanted to give you a little background. We are honored to have Tina Konkin with us today.
Yeah.
She is a relationship expert. Tina, I was thinking back, it's been almost 9 years since I met you. And I went through your workshop in 2014. It was right after Ron passed. And I believe it was the first workshop you did after Ron had passed. Mm-hmm. And Tina is our people. She does so much work that's experiential in nature.
Yeah.
And her program, while she's moved on, and she'll talk a little bit about what she's doing now, she has literally transformed thousands of lives through her work. And we're just honored to have her. I learned so much. I went through her program, and for a few years, I got to go up and TA, be a teacher's assistant, and learn how to facilitate from her and really learn that experiential model. And anyway, I could go on and on about her, but I'll let you give her a formal, honey.
Yes. Well, welcome, Tina. Let me do this upright. So Tina is a mother of 3, grandmother to 3, an author, relationship expert, counselor, and conference speaker. She's facilitated hundreds of seminars for youth, adults, couples, and families for over 30 years. Coming from a background of abuse and abandonment, Tina's passion is to help and heal the brokenhearted, by giving them a clear path to live the life they've always imagined. Tina's purpose, I love this. When people boil down things to this is why I'm here, her purpose is to heal relationships one broken heart at a time. Tina, so great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be on here. And Leslie, I cannot believe it's been 9 years. Doesn't feel like that.
Crazy.
But both of us kind of moved in a little bit of different direction. And the workshop you were talking about, Relationship Lifeline, is still operating in California, but I did pass it on to really good trainers. And now I'm free to kind of wander and do these intensives in churches, in the corporate world, and also just do privates for people in crisis. So now I'm known not as a relationship expert, I'm known as the crisis coach.
I love that.
Well,
so that's sort of where I've moved to at this time, and it kind of releases me a little bit from the business world. So it's good. I can just go in, do the crisis stuff, and be able to leave them in good hands and find resources like yours that can keep them going.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
A little bit of triage there.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
we're going to start with the same question we ask every guest we have, and just tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, my family, I have 3 children, 2 that I birthed naturally with lots of pain. And my third one was a gift from God. I always call those 30-second moments where you raise your hand and you don't know what you're raising your hand to. And I remember, she's 19 now, but she was 3 months old when I happened to be in the social worker's office. I was working with some downtown people in Vancouver and working with social workers and kind of setting up plans. And And the social worker got a crisis call, and she just said, there's a baby that's going to be taken away from a really good mom because she has no friends or family. And so, and she just had a meltdown. Well, I heard postpartum meltdown, and so anyways, I said, well, I can be a friend, not realizing it was PTSD, not postpartum. And so the child, they were just doing, like the mom had full custody, but she was being watched, just because of her mental illness and stuff. So anyway, one thing turned to another, and it went from helping a single mom for 2 weeks to adopting a beautiful little girl. My youngest at the time was 19. I thought we were empty nesting. He was in his last year of training for being an electrical engineer. So I thought I got 6 more months of this, and then we're free. We started all over again. So she's sort of been my gift. And so that's my family, 3 of them. And of course, then we've got 3 grandkids. My son gave me 3 grandkids. My oldest daughter is engaged. And I think you know her. That's Jenny.
Yeah, I'm so excited for her.
I know. So she's engaged. And then Mia's 19. And
Wow.
she's been struggling since Ron passed 9 years ago now. And so she was only 9, and that's been just a constant struggle. For her, she was adopted, so that's sort of like the loss of 2 dads. One gave her up and the other one died. So that's been quite the challenge, but you know what? She's coming to the other side of it, and I'm so proud of her. So that's sort of and Mia, she would have been little the last time you saw her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of my family in a wrap. I'm proud of them. They're all serving the Lord. And Jenny's very involved with the downtown work that we were doing back then. And now she runs homeless shelters and veterans homes and low-income family buildings, and is doing phenomenal with that. And of course, with all the learning she did from us, she knows that identity is huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people have had their identity stripped from them. Yeah. So her purpose really downtown with the Hard to House is really helping them connect to human connection. Yeah. And so I'm proud of her that she's doing a great work down there. And the government has, like they did partner with us just because they saw a change in families when we reconnect them with families, and that if we find family, if they have family, and try to create that reconnection for them. So I love the work that you guys do, because that's always been our heart. We work with marriages and relationships, but really it's so the family unit, I do it for the kids, for the family, for the unit of wholesome, right? And even if people can't, not everybody, like I've seen an 85 to 90%, it was actually Mariners Church that did the study, 85 to 90% of people that are thinking divorce, or wanting divorce, or, on the verge of divorce, especially if they have children, when they do, the program, they see from a different perspective.
Yeah.
They'll fight harder, and there's something to fight for. They always say, don't stay together for the children. And I'm going, no, stay together for the children. Like, let's look at how we can, because otherwise you just pass it on to the next generation. So that's sort of my family background.
That's good.
You have such a powerful family legacy, and that's why it's near and dear to our hearts. We're tuned into that. It's really passing on the character and nature of God in our kids in a way that they can teach it to their kids.
That's
and
right.
then programs and the outreaches and the is fruit of that character of God that we passed on. And you mentioned a number of ways that you're doing that in the ministry. I want to jump right to our topic today and ask you, where you titled your talk today, how to bring trust back into your marriage. I mean, trust is huge in not only marriage, but relationships, period. And so tell us a little bit about your story and how how you came to put that trust back in, and what's important for our listeners to learn from that today.
Well, I think they're going to learn something very, very, very different. And if I hadn't gotten that concept, I don't know that I could have healed our marriage. I don't know that we could have together healed our marriage, because that was such, when trust is broken, how do you bring it back? How do you mend it? How do you trust again? How do you move forward? And I couldn't answer that. So what happened I think it was about 14 years into our marriage. We didn't have a bad marriage. We didn't have an awesome marriage. We just had a marriage. We were happy. We had 2 kids. My oldest, when the infidelity happened, was 14. The younger one was 11. And we just thought, we had, to be honest, the year that the infidelity happened was the best year of the 14 years. So go figure. But we had figured some things out. But then when a storm hits, what you haven't figured out comes back to haunt you, And so that's why they said before the storm hits, storms are going to come. But before storms hit, that's when you should have the tools to get through it. I think of, we're not as I don't know, we're not as weather affected, I feel, in Canada, except maybe winter storms. But I think of these places here in the States where you're always getting these hurricane warnings or tornado warnings, and and people run down to whatever, I don't know what you call them, caves or something. What do you guys? Shelters.
Basements.
Yeah, shelters that are specifically built for that, to weather the storm. Well, that has to be built before you get the warning. Right?
Good.
That has to be built before, just because you know where you're living. And I feel like we should have shelters like that built for marriage for when certain tornadoes come around, and we didn't have that. So that's why it can happen to a good marriage, because until the storm hits, you don't know the shelter you should have had prepared.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've ever used that. I think I like that. Just preaching to myself here.
Yeah.
Build a shelter around your marriage. You need some shelter. But so what happened about year 14, my husband's mom was dying, and he's the youngest, so he was really a mama's boy. And it just hit him in a way. Ron was not an emotional roller coaster like I am. He didn't ever need to get happy. He just was. He was a very contented man, and found fun in everything. He loved just fun, and with the kids and with me, and he was sort of the lighthearted one. And so that's what I was used to. He wasn't the guy that you needed to spoil. He spoiled you. Right. And when his mom was dying, it was a different season. He started acting different. He started being quiet. It was Christmas, and he wasn't interested in putting up lights. That triggered me really big time, because Christmas for him was a favorite season. Lights go up and trees go up, and it was like there was no interest. And the kids were saying, "Are we going to get a tree?" And yeah, we'll get it. It just wasn't happening. And that's when I noticed. Thought, he's not doing good. And then other things would happen, like his mom lived 8 hours away. So he'd always have the excuse. I would hear him on the phone, like, "No, I can't come out this weekend." And I'm thinking, why not? And then she was taken to a hospital 4 hours away. And I thought, perfect opportunity. But I went into militant mode, meaning there's things you do because you have to. That's how I was raised. Not because you want to, not because you feel like it or don't feel like it. You do it out of obligation, right? So I said, I don't care if you want to go or not. Like, you need to go see your mom. She's in the hospital. And he goes, "Well, what good is it that I go see her while she's in the hospital?" I said, "I don't know. That's where you go to see." Like, I just had no empathy, no sympathy, nothing. It just was like, you do it because you have to do it, right? And I started seeing that I was distancing myself from him, and I wasn't going to bed at the same time as him. And just because the energy of sadness was something I'd never experienced in 14 years. And here's the weird part about it. I asked my friend if she could please be there for him because she'd experienced the death of her parents. I hadn't. And I just kept saying, I just don't do death well. I just don't do death well. And I can't relate to this. Like, why doesn't he want? I think if somebody was dying in my family, I'd want to be right by their side 24/7, like I wouldn't want to miss a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And he's withdrawing instead. So I didn't understand it. So I basically threw them together. Now, one of my facilitators that works with me, her, Margaret, she says to me, because we deal a lot, obviously, with infidelity. She says to me now, what she says to her clients was classic of what happened to me. It was vulnerability meets opportunity, and you're probably going to have infidelity. Right? So it's like when you're vulnerable like that and you're given the opportunity to unload, to let go of some feelings you've had, then it brings in distorted feelings, and that's going to happen. So that's what happened. And I remember finding out just a week after Christmas. His mom died the day after Christmas, and a week after that is when I found out that they'd been having an affair. And so it was one of the hardest, when I asked him those words, is it true? Now, he'd gone back to visit his dad after his mom's funeral, and he'd brought us home, the family. I got the kids back in school, and he went back to spend time with his dad. And I had to ask him on the phone because that's when the reveal happened, was when he was gone.
You know what? I want to just interrupt just for a second and say thank you for being vulnerable with us today. And I know there are people listening who have experienced multiple forms of this, and trust has been broken. And so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear what you did after that and how you put trust back in the marriage, because I think that's the question that our listeners need to just hear from you today. So we'll be right back right after this. Introducing the Family Digital Bundle, a powerful collection designed to transform your family's journey towards healing, growth, and thriving.
At the heart of this bundle is the best-selling book and workbook, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out, written by Dr. Randall Bixby.
With insightful wisdom and practical advice, these resources offer a roadmap for building a strong family legacy that shapes the culture of generations to come.
But that's not all. Our Family Digital Bundle includes an e-course, over 9 hours of how-to videos, equipping you with practical tools and expert guidance to help your family.
Imagine your family, a place where love, growth, and connection come together. Isn't it time to build a better family? If not now, when?
Invest in your family. Order the Family Digital Bundle today by clicking the link below or visit our website, thefamilyreformationproject.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody. We've got Tina Konkin with us today, and she is talking about how to put trust back into your marriage. And so we're going to let her speak into that.
Thanks, guys. That's such a big thing about trust. And I'll tell you what, when I found out I was being unfaithful, I call it my mirror moment. So if people get my book, How God Used the Other Woman, it opened up my eyes to so much, because what I was able to do was have that mirror moment the morning after I found out. And I was crying. I had that ugly cry. And God suddenly said, stop crying. Just stop crying and ask yourself this question. What part did you play in your marriage to get you to this place? Okay, what part did you play? And I just thought it was demons talking, because I thought God wouldn't blame me. Well, he didn't. He was just saying, you both got here. You both broke. You were both broken when you came in. And there's things you did not repair, those shelters I was talking about. There are shelters that were not prepared. And the shelter that was not prepared was the shelter of nurture. My husband needed nurturing. And God showed me that 20 years before that moment, I had made a vow that I would never love like that again. I had someone that I thought I was going to marry die, and I nurtured him for a year. And I remember when he died, I said, never again. But I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
So God took me back to there, and he said, if you will heal that, the whole story is in the book. If you will just break that vow and create a shelter of nurture for each other, I will give you back the marriage. So that was step one. I knew God was willing. I knew if we did our part, we could do this. But trust. That was the big question. And that's what my family was asking me. That's what my friends were asking me. That's what the pastor asked me. How will you trust again? This is why the Bible says, except for adultery, right? The Bible doesn't totally say that. Jesus said, because of the hardness of the heart,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Divorce was allowed, not because of adultery. So, and the hardness of the heart usually comes with adultery, and most people can't get past it. But the trust thing I couldn't get past. So guess what? I went to church that Sunday by myself with my hoodie, and I said, Lord, I need an answer to that question. I tell you, the pastor stopped talking in the middle of his message, and he goes, I've got to stop. And he said, I don't know who needs to hear this. Now, remember, I got my hoodie sitting in the back row. He can't see me. And he says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but God never told you to trust. God said, trust God, love people. I walked out so fast, and I was in the parking lot. I did the hallelujah dance, and I said, it's not even scriptural for us to trust ourselves or another human. It's trust God, love people. And I said, God, I can trust you with my husband. I can trust you with my marriage. What I have to do is create safety or shelters. We have to work on each other to create a safe place for us in a storm, a safe place for what he needs, what I need. But to put our trust, if you've ever looked up the word trust, it is impossible for us to have trust in relationships. Told you that was going to be quick. Don't trust men. Don't trust women. Don't trust yourself. Trust God with your life. Do the right thing according to God's purposes for you. Create safety in your marriage. You know, like I call safety, I call like a smoke alarm. That's another thing, like shelters, right? A smoke alarm warns you, get out, flee, move. Right? So that's my trust answer right there.
It's
Love
so good.
people, trust God.
Yeah.
That's so good. We say something very similar, Tina, and and in the book that we write about what is the real problem in families. It's one thing to see all of the fruit, all of the stats of fatherlessness and brokenness and divorce, but what's the root of it? And there was three things: identity drift, we don't know who we are, and
Yes.
second was the failure to self-govern well.
Amen.
And really, what I heard you say was, God said, "Hey," or you were like, "I'm taking responsibility for my part in this," and how powerful that is. Most people think, "Well, it wasn't my fault." Well, to be married to that person, you chose to or not nurture, you chose to whatever, make a vow. I'm just using your example. I've got plenty of my own.
Yeah.
Right. And it's when I own my part and my choices and I can govern myself, boy, it's a lot easier to get to forgiveness and to trust in God. We say this, God shows a similar thing. We trust God in and beyond people.
Yes.
As we're supposed to love people, part of that is trusting them, but the trust that's there is, I believe, it's trusting God, no matter what the outcome, no matter their performance, whether they fail or succeed in our relationship, we're trusting God in and through that. So good.
That's right. We can, like safety is easy word to use because safety means something different to me than to you. So once I discover what makes you feel safe, then we work together on that. Once you discover what makes me feel safe, I don't feel safe when I'm left in a room to mingle. I don't feel safe. You know, I don't feel safe when somebody says, oh, at church, you know, hug one another. That doesn't feel safe for me, right? And I have to know that about myself, right? So that I can prepare myself, because there are times now without a husband, I do have to go in rooms and mingle. So I have to create that safety for myself. Right. So but I don't trust myself to go into a room and act like myself.
Yeah, this is so good, Tina. And I
Yeah.
love what you were talking about. The person we're to trust is the person of Jesus. It is God we can trust. So that we can, and apart from him, and this is really crucial. We're going to be talking a lot in the coming episodes about marriage, and it's the separation, right? When we're separated from trusting God, we can't go into those situations.
No.
When we're separated in our marriages,
Right.
that's when stuff happens. That's when affairs happen. That's when separation happens. And that choice to trust the one who's trustworthy.
So good.
And just think for a minute how much easier it is in a friendship even to say, I want to feel safe with you. But the minute you say, I want to trust you, the expectations,
That's
right?
so good.
It's so it's to me, when somebody says, I just want to be able to trust you 100%, and I'm going, how?
I'm going to let you down.
I'm going to hurt you, because that's not going to happen.
Good.
You know,
So
it's different.
Yeah. So Tina, somebody's out there and this is really resonating with them. They're like, man, I don't know how to where do I start to trust God like this, given what I have experienced, the betrayal, the whatever. Where would you say, here's the place to start, and here's how to get in touch with me, and give them a next step or two?
TinaKonkin.com will give you all the information of what I'm doing right now. I do go to people, or they come to me for crisis counseling and coaching. I do go to places myself as a speaker, like you said. But if people want personal help, they can go to my website. The book, the easiest place to get the book is, I know this is terrible, and people that work for me, that market for me, they just go, I can't believe you do that. But Amazon.com.
Same.
It can also be on TinaKonkin.com, but it just goes faster if you go to Amazon, especially if you're Prime.
That's right.
Free delivery. I can't give you free delivery, so all of that.
It's more expensive to ship books now than what you charge for the cost of the book. I don't want to be a shipper either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tina. Is there any other questions you have, or any last words for us today? Thank you so much.
Well, I think, don't give up. Just don't give up. And if you're a believer, ask God to show you. That's what I did. Once I realized it wasn't demons talking to me, I understood what God meant by my part. All he was saying was I'd locked up a part of my heart with a vow, and that needed to be broken. And God was gentle with me. I didn't have to take responsibility for the affair. I had to take responsibility for our marriage for 14 years.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's the hardest part for people that feel like victims. I didn't want to be a victim. And so that happened to me, but now it's what I did with it that made the difference. And so
I'm so sorry, but also, right, not just the 14 years previous, but now you're responsible for what you choose to do now moving forward. Your part.
Exactly. And so for me, again, like you guys are all about family, for me, don't make unhealthy decisions during a period of anger or hurt or pain. I always say, get healthy first. My husband and I did not know if we'd make it, but we decided that we were going to do the healing first. We decided to do the counseling. We decided to do a program, an intensive program like I offer. We decided to do everything we could because we had kids, and one way or another, we had to be healthy for them, together or not together, as long as we were healthy. And when you make healthy decisions, when you become healthy, you make healthy decisions.
That's spot on. Thank you, Tina, so much. It's just been great having you. Have a most excellent rest of your vacation with your grands. And
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just been great having you. Thanks again.
All right. And it was an honor. And it was good seeing you again. We'll have to
You
try in person soon.
That'd be great.
That'd be nice. We'd love to reconnect. So, hey, remember this: whoever wins the family
Wins the culture in the end.
We'll see you next time.
Amen.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of Transforming Families with Randy and Leslie. We hope that today's conversation has left you feeling empowered and equipped to take action.
Remember, transforming families begins with transforming ourselves. Let's be intentional, loving, and persevere. You're not alone. We're right here with you.
We believe Proverbs 24:3. Wise people are builders. They build families, businesses, and communities. Through intelligence and insight, their enterprises are established and endure.
Thanks for joining us today. We encourage you to stay connected with us on social media, join our email list, and learn more about our resources and classes at the Family School by visiting thefamilyreformationproject.com.
Remember to subscribe, share with your loved ones, and spread the word about transforming families. We'll see you on our next episode. And remember, whoever wins the family wins the